Hey folks, my name is Jen, and today I'm going to tell you about everything that I read in December. Back to last year, I read 19 books over the course of December. This might seem, wow, crazy. How'd you do that while you were incredibly busy making presents and things? Most of these were audiobooks. Just gonna throw that out there. Most of them were audiobooks, and in fact, most of the audiobooks were very short. A couple of them were a little bit on the longer side, but most of them were like a half an hour, something like that. Let's get into, I guess, first we'll talk about all of the audiobooks, and then we'll get into the other four physical books that I read. So the first bit of audiobooks, thank you Banks for contributing. The first one's preface, they are all erotica, because I discovered a Chuck Tingle podcast. They were all part of a Chuck Tingle podcast. I think I talked about it in my November wrap-up. I came across this podcast that kind of different celebrities would read varying Chuck Tingle erotic novels for your entertainment. So yeah, the first chunk of them are all that because I was listening to the podcast in its entirety, and it was also something funny and fun and also counted as reading, that I was doing while I was working on presents and doing stuff. So I think, yeah. First one is Butt Wars Rogue Buns, a play off of Star Wars Rogue One. Darth Vader had a different name and I can't remember now what it was, but he was actually a sexy, muscly unicorn, apparently. A lot of unicorns in here. What I wrote as my comment in here is LMFAO. Next was Bigfoot Pirates Haunt My Balls. Honestly, out of all of these, I think that one might be up there on my favorites. Just because I am a fan of pirates. I like hearing about them, reading about them, learning about them. Bigfoot pirates were new to me. The fact that they can haunt someone's balls is even more different. That one was really bizarre. Guy gets haunted by a Bigfoot pirate as part of like some kind of legend of the area or something about these like Bigfoot pirates that used to exist. He ends up going to the beach, finding like this pirate ship thing, goes on board and gets, let's just say him and the crew are intimately acquainted. It was absolutely hilarious, and I think the bizarreness of Bigfoot pirates, like the combination of the two concepts, was just, I could not handle it. It was hilarious. Next was I'm Gay for My Living Billionaire Jet Plane, wherein the protagonist of this one goes on a trip on board a jet plane and gets nervous at turbulence at one point, and the jet plane actually starts talking to him and comforting him, and they hit it off, and somehow he goes to visit the jet plane at his house, and the jet plane has a mansion, but it is acknowledged that he's too big to fit inside the mansion, so he stays in the yard with the, but he's also, he made all this money, became a billionaire because he's a card counter in Vegas, or you're not asking for realism with Chuck Tingle, you're just along for the ride, basically, just as much as the people in the stories, albeit a different ride than what they're experiencing. Yeah, next was Slammed in the Butt by My Handsome Laundry Detergent Pod, wherein a gentleman is going to a antique car show or something like that, and in the rush He ends up muddying his car a lot and needs to go get it cleaned up before the judges come around, and he is pointed in the direction of this car wash and runs into a sentient laundry detergent pod. That Next is Lonely Author Pounded by Dinosaurs Social Media Follows. I was not as big a fan of this one, although the critique of social media was interesting. But yeah, I wasn't as big a fan of that. The social media followers are also dinosaurs. Clearly. Next was Reamed by my reaction to the title of this book, which was very meta. More so, even more meta than some of his others. With Shuck Tingle, some things, concepts get more and more abstract over time. As if the Bigfoot pirate, like the ghost Bigfoot pirates, aren't enough, or the living billionaire jet plane like objects aren't enough, or creatures of varying whatever. Sometimes just concepts become sexually deviant with said protagonist. That one was very meta. Slammed in the butthole by my concept of linear time. I think that is another favorite of mine, just because of how absolutely fucking bonkers that story gets, and the ending of it is just really bizarre. And I think I like that one because of how different the ending is, because normally the endings are pretty standard happy at the end. Because you gotta have a happy ending in a romance. So, yeah. But, yeah, that one, I guess it is a happy, but it's a little, things happen. You're not going to read this, so I might as well tell you. I believe, I read so many of these that I can't quite remember, but I believe that is the one that he is trying to do something with. I think he decides he wants to be one with the concept of time, and then they just evaporate into molecules or something. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. But it's very interesting. I did read one that was like that. I just can't remember if it was that one or not. Next was Fake News, Real Boners. Hilarious. Conspiracy theories abound in that one, and I found the satire and social commentary in that one to be particularly delightful. Wow, I only wrote down part of this title because it's so long. Living inside my own butt for 8 years, starting a business and turning a profit, and then there's something about strategic integrated marketing. You will have heard about it on my end of year wrap up. Wow. Just wow. Absolutely fucking bizarre. I think this is the one that tickled me the most, because it really, I made my husband listen to that one. Like, I was, 5 minutes into the episode, and he was sitting I had headphones on, and he was sitting next to me on the couch playing a video game, and I was like knitting and stuff, and I was laughing so hard, I put it back to the beginning, and I took my headphones off, and I was like, no, you need to listen to this. And I made him listen to that episode with me, because it was just absolutely whacked. Guy in financial straits meets a mysterious stranger in a coffee shop, and the guy is like Mr. Moneybags or something from Monopoly, only dressed all in green or purple or something, I think, and then like I don't even know. So, yeah, he teaches him that he could use his own butt as, like, prime real estate. And so a portion of the book takes place within inside his own butt, and it's, like, describing the things that they have done to cultivate the land there and turn it into, like, a great community. It's so fucking weird, and I loved every second of it because it was so fucking weird. And the smutty bits in that one, this particular scene in it that cracked me up because of how bizarre that was too. So it was just, yeah, hilarious. My ass is haunted by the gay unicorn Colonel. That one I didn't like as much, and I think it's only because, like, if I remember correctly, I think the Unicorn Colonel was in, like, was he in the Confederate Army or something? I don't know, but can't quite remember. But I was just kind of like, about it. And the last one was Pounded in the Bud by the Unexpectedly Early Arrival of Christmas Decorations, which I felt was very timely from when I was listening to this. And yeah, the Christmas decorations. It's just some guy raging about the fact that the Christmas decorations were out already and it wasn't even Thanksgiving, and he was like getting mad on behalf of Thanksgiving or something. Is very, again, the social commentary within these is pretty funny, and I think that's part of the draw, is the bits of social commentary that are thrust in to the stories in between everything else. Overall, what were my thoughts? Fun. Funny. This is not highbrow literature that you are looking for, but I that's not the point of it. The point of it, as Chuck Tingle himself says, is to spread love. And I don't know if he's really spreading love, but he's definitely spreading humor. And I kind of love that. I know these are not for everyone. I wouldn't even know who to recommend any of these for. I'd say if you're in for a laugh with a dash of social commentary, check them out. It is very smutty, but I will say I have read quite a bit of romance novels since I was a teenager, and I have only read, besides these Chuck Tingles, I have only read three pieces of LGBTQIA romantic or erotic media before. Actually, 1, 2, 3. I have 4. Well, more like 3 because one of them didn't have any smut in it. But yeah, you get the picture. Anyway, I haven't read that much of it at this juncture. So I don't know, maybe it's just because I haven't read as many varied things, but I will say the sex scenes always seem to be a bit one note. Not that I'm particularly looking for anything in these. I list them as erotica because I don't know what else to call them. I think they are just erotica. That's what they are recognized as anyway, but I don't think they're particularly there for titillation like a romance novel or actual like full erotica might be. I think these are just pure entertainment and ridiculousness. I don't think anyone is getting off to this except maybe Chuck Tingle, and even then I don't think he is. He at one point in one of these books discusses people thinking that he's getting off on his novels, which was very meta and hilarious. I don't know what to say about the smutty bits other than it was just one note. It was like basically the same sex over and over again. The novels themselves are pretty formulaic, which I guess if you are looking at these novels, if you step back from them and just kind of look at them as a breakdown of the romantic genre in general, I guess maybe that is also making a statement that sometimes they can be pretty formulaic. Although, to be completely honest, over the past several years, I've been trying to get out of the formulaic. I mean, I still demand a happy ending every time because why the fuck else am I reading a romance novel? But at the same time, I want things to push the bounds. I want them to do different things. I want to see more well-rounded characters. I want to see, like, more than just the relationship. I want other things to be involved. Like, I don't know, a haunted house, spies, the fucking murder mystery. I don't know. I want other stuff to be involved in the story as well, so they're not just all like Harlequin silhouette, one note, meet cute, dancing around, sex scene, dancing around, miscommunication, sex scene, wedding. You know, that kind of formula that's in a lot of, or was in a lot. I'm speaking about this as most of the romance novels I grew up reading, I was hiding away from the adults in my life who didn't want me to read romance novels. I was sneaking them and reading them. Anyway, so they were like all old or novels from like the 80s and parts of the 90s. In some cases, a couple from the 70s, actually, they were really bad. Everything being one note, I don't know if he's also trying to make some kind of statement about that. Ultimately, I'm probably reading way too much into these books. They're just probably just ridiculousness. But yeah, formulaic, especially when you listen to like 11, 12 audiobooks all in a row. They tend to all run together, except for the situations. The situations change, the setting changes, but the acts themselves are always a similar way of things happening, which, I mean, Mr. Tingle, if that's what butters your bread, you do you, sir. Yeah, none of those are rated, because I don't rate erotica, or rather, I don't know if I'd rate erotica. I haven't read any actual erotica in years other than these. So I have not been rating these because, again, I don't know how to rate them. I don't know if they're supposed to be rated on the erotica thing because I don't find them arousing or titillating. I don't know if they're supposed to be rated on entertainment value because they are very entertaining. But the entertainment value is different than you would take entertainment value at some other books, perhaps, and they're like, yeah, I don't know how to rate them, so they're all unrated. So, yeah. Other than that audiobook, I also listened to Christmas Stories by Enid Blyton. This was a collection of Christmas stories. It's a hard left turn I'm taking here. Yeah, it's stories for children involving Christmas. How this is set up is there is one like standard story that is taking place throughout this entire book that is like featuring a set family, and two of the kids are a little older and they seem like they've been away at boarding school and they're now home for the holidays. I'm not 100% sure when this was written. Just based on like cues and stuff in here, I'm guessing maybe it's late 40s, early 50s possibly. I could be wrong, could be earlier than that. That's the thing. So there's this one set story about this family of 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls, the mom and dad, and they're getting ready for Christmas, and the older kids have just returned home for the Christmas holidays, or Crimbo Halls, or whatever. I'm probably offending British people, I apologize. They're home for the holidays, and it is them talking about their favorite Christmas traditions and then asking their parents for the origin stories of these Christmas traditions and getting those origin stories throughout, and interspersed between those chapters of them learning about Christmas traditions are other short stories involving other children's Christmas adventures, a couple that are just about Santa or Santa Claus up at the North Pole and his elves and reindeer and shit like that. I did find this mostly charming and delightful. It did feel at different parts very saccharine and sugary sweet. I wouldn't go so far as to say like what I particularly hate about Christmas specials, which is like Hallmark, gross, over lame sweetness. I would say it's on par with like, I guess parts of it reminded me of this animated VHS movie that I had when I was a kid, and I don't know exactly when this came out. I do know that my grandparents got it for me at like a Riches or an Ames when I was very small, so that should tell you anything if you are old enough to know those. And it was called like Candy Cane or Candy Claus or something, I don't fucking remember. But it was about a little girl who was like made out of sugar, candy, and the Clauses adopt her, and there's this whole thing. I don't quite remember anything other than there's trouble at some point and they have to save Candy Claus or something. I don't remember. I just remember how sugary sweet that entire movie was, and how now I would probably feel that it's super lame, and That's kind of on par with how I felt about these stories, is that some of them were a little too cutesy, some of them were a little too sappy and saccharine, but then some of them would bring me back a little bit because they were funny or had interesting situations or cute little family moments or something like that. Very moralistic stories, I will say, about good children being rewarded, bad children not being rewarded for behavior and different things like that. Just, yeah, your typical little stories for kids written by an older generation, like that kind of thing. Yeah, I did really like the discussion of Christmas traditions and stuff like that. I did really enjoy those sections as well. I learned a couple of things actually that I wasn't aware of. And then I also just really liked how patient the dad was with like explaining things and how he seems to be so freaking knowledgeable. I was like, dang, this guy like do a lot of reading in his spare time. I did like that, and I did like, you know, it is most definitely an older book, and it's most definitely keeping with like traditions of the Christmas holidays and stuff like that, but I did really like that multiple times different traditions are discussed and it was explained to the kids, yeah, this is how we do this now and this is what's recognized now, but its origin actually was pagan. Its origin was actually from Germany or from Ireland or from the, you know, different places pre-Christian traditions that then got adopted. Little things like that to kind of acknowledge that, oh, this is prior to that, which I found to be very refreshing, especially for an older book, and especially also because I grew up not knowing where a lot of traditions came from and that they weren't, you know, directly related to Christianity. So that was pretty cool, and I liked that that existed out there in the world, so there are a lot of people who probably grew up knowing that. I thought that was kind of cool. One tradition I say that we should bring back is involving Christmas trees. If you're having a real tree, I guess how they used to do it was you would dig up a tree and you would bring it into your house, decorate it, and then take the decorations off and plant it out in your yard or out somewhere nearby, and then the next year you'd keep digging it up until it got too big, and then you would just permanently plant it, and it would just be this great tree that maybe you decorate for the birds and stuff around you, which I thought that was really nice. Instead of like killing the tree entirely and cutting it down, it was just, I mean, you're still traumatizing the tree every year, I guess, but I liked the thought of that instead of what we do now, or what a lot of people do now, I guess. We have a fake tree, but yeah. Anyway, what did I give Christmas stories? I gave it 4 stars. The other 2 books that I listened to, the audiobooks, were both by T. Kinsey, and they are both part of the Lady Hardcastle mystery series. I listened to, what is it, A Picture of Murder first, which I guess is like book 5. I did not realize at the time that was book 5. I should have. But yeah, so I listened to that one first, and that one's actually set around Halloween. And then the other one I listened to is book 1, A Quiet Life in the Country, and that was great to listen to that then because I got some context for like situations and relationships that I didn't have in the other book, although they were pretty fleshed out anyway. This series, as far as I can see in the 2 books that I've listened to so far, follow Lady Hardcastle and her close friend and maid. Wow, her name went right out of my head. Her Lady Hardcastle calls her Flo. She is telling the story, but yeah, her name is Florence, and I can't remember her last name, but yeah, Lady Hardcastle calls her Flo. And Flo is an interesting character herself. She was raised by circus performers, actually. Her parents were part of a troupe. So she was raised on the road quite a bit, but she did spend a significant amount of time in Wales, speaks some Welsh, and I guess mostly kind of identifies as Welsh. At some point, she ended up working for the Hardcastles, and the Hardcastles ended up in... Could I tell you again where they ended up? I can't remember. They were in either China or India. Both of these women talk significantly about their times in both of these countries. I just can't remember which one it was, where unfortunately Lady Hardcastle's husband was murdered, and these two had to kind of hide out, and a lot of things were involved. And it sounds like maybe kind of from the time that Lord Hardcastle was alive, but significantly after it, they have been doing some crazy shit. It sounds like they might have been undercover at different points. They've come up against different villains. They've done a lot of investigative work. They've been spies. They've been like doing all kinds of stuff. They traveled to different places. On their time that they stayed in China hiding out, they ended up staying in like this village or something, and Flo got Armstrong. That's what her last name is. There we go. Armstrong. Armstrong goes to this dude and gets him to teach her martial arts. I can't remember if they say which form, but she gets him to teach her martial arts, so she is really good at self-defense. Lady Hardcastle can shoot a weapon pretty well, and I think Armstrong can too. And yeah, and they have this, and Lady Hardcastle herself is really like weird. She likes stop motion photography and video, or stop motion videos, and it's around the time where motion pictures were just kind of like a little baby of a thing, in like the early 1900s. Very interesting stuff. They're both very eccentric, and they have this wonderful banter back and forth with each other. And on the one hand, I was almost starting to ship it a little bit, because I was like, are they like... But then I realized that they're... No, I'd say maybe not. I mean, I'd be open to it. But I'm thinking their relationship is just more like sisters, I guess. They're more like sisters. Although, I mean, hell, I'd ship it, possibly. Honestly, I'd also ship her with one of the detectives, too. But anyway, they have a very interesting relationship, and in A Quiet Life in the Country, they end up moving to this area to settle down, Lady Hardcastle says, and they, on this ramble about the town, or through the countryside rather, they end up coming upon the body of a man who looks like he's hanged himself. But instantly, they can tell just by apparent details that he must have been helped up into that tree, to be completely honest. He did not do that on his own. And they end up kind of getting involved within the case and impressing the local detectives and the London detectives, and yeah, get involved in that case. And then A Picture from Murder also involves obviously another murder, this one taking place with a like a film crew, an early 1900s film crew that are in the area to show a movie they have made, and so there's a lot involved with that, as well as some like religious zealot and his little group that are protesting the movie because it's the 1900s and everybody's gotta be a fucking hater. So yeah, so that one, I really liked that one, and that one intrigued me enough and has such quirky characters that I was like, you know what, I need to read this series, and that's what prompted me to go back to book one. And also listen to that, and I really enjoyed them. I think the narrator of these is really good. She has a very soothing voice, and I think she does very well. And I just really loved the stories. The way they behave a little bit is maybe a little out of the norm for ladies of the time period. However, based upon their own personal experiences and things that have happened to them, there is an explanation why they might not be the perfect little society women and maid of the early 1900s. There's differences there. And I liked that there's like a clear explanation. They're not just holding like 21st century views about things. There's explanations as to why they might be a little more open-minded, worldly, or whatever than normal for that time period. I enjoyed it. I love the accents. And I ended up loving this so much that I have actually been looking at tracking down the series. It does appear that, because I looked them up online because I was like, where can I get these from? And it looks like so far the only place you can definitely get them from is through Amazon. So I might get some physical copies from there, I guess. But yeah, I really like the series. It looks like there's like 10 or 11 books right now. So it is an ongoing mystery series, and that's exciting to me because a lot of the mysteries that I read are mostly like older. The authors are dead. Like they're done already, or even if they are still ongoing, there's like so many of them that's almost overwhelming. This one, there's an amount that it's not quite overwhelming yet. Anyway, yeah, I love both of these. I think the banter between these two is absolutely fucking hilarious. The action in it is really interesting. I really loved all the characters. The characters in this town, I've only met like some of them. I feel like there's going to be more brought in over time. And yeah, I can see this as a really nice, not exactly cozy, because death is described in here. Not in like super great detail, but it's definitely a little bit more than is normally said in like an Agatha Christie. Yeah, I really like it, and I found it to honestly be pretty cozy and really interesting. So definitely something I'm excited to check out more of. Let me see, what did I give those? I think I gave both of them 5 stars. Then I read also Time Cat by Lloyd Alexander. That's my fantasy for the month. Time Cat, it's actually a book that I started like a while ago, and I finally got myself to finish reading it. It is about a boy who one day his little black cat ends up talking to him, and he has a conversation with the cat, and asks him like about cat lives and different things like that. So the cat's like, oh, let me take you through the history of cats, basically. And it's like a dream sequency kind of thing, basically. They go from like, I think it starts in like ancient Egypt. So they go through like Egypt to China to Japan to Ireland, and I think they're in England at one point, Italy. Are they in Spain at one, or Greece at some point? I know in Italy they run into like a painter. Was it Leonardo da Vinci? Can't remember. Man, my memory is just so bad right now. But yeah, so throughout history, and then culminates in like Germany when like the witch stuff is going on, and then also into the Revolutionary War in America. And yeah, he's basically taken throughout history and learning the history of cats, and cats throughout history, whether they were revered, whether they were mistrusted, killed, different kinds of things, and how important cats were throughout history with these varying famous to not so famous people. And some of the famous people look like, yeah, clearly famous, and then some of the famous people, I did end up looking them up and I couldn't find any information, so I'm guessing maybe they're like a culmination of like famous people, or like used as an example for something, I think was Lloyd Alexander was trying to do. I really enjoyed it, like a lot. I did take a break in it for a long time, but it was an interesting book. It had some funny bits. It had some parts of it, historical parts, and I'm like, I don't, is that really correct? I'm sure at the time maybe it was thought to be correct, but is that actually correct? I don't know. But still, very interesting look at like cats throughout time, whether they were like revered or not. And there was this one particular thing that the boy's cat says at one point that I thought, wow, this is pretty great. The like Germany, like the dealing with the witch village time and everything. And so the boy's name is Jason and the little black cat's name is Gareth. And they have both survived being imprisoned and almost executed. So they're like walking along and Jason says, I'll be glad to get out of here. This is a terrible place. It's bad enough for humans, but what about the cats? If these people keep on, there won't be any cats left. Gareth says, they'll stop someday. For a while. Then they'll start up again, a little differently, but still much the same. And so it will go, off and on, until people stop being superstitious, afraid of the dark, and afraid of each other. But in the meantime, what can you do? Survive, said Gareth. And hope. And I don't know, that part of this made me a little bit emotional, I guess. Because I have a little black cat, and she is the absolute sweetest thing. And we found her outside. Now, not that she was like purposefully abandoned or anything. Is a couple of either stray cats in the area, although they look a little too well kept to be total strays. I'm thinking they're nearby neighbors' cats that just let them roam. We think that the mom, something might have happened to the mom, or the mom was moving her litter and our little baby got left behind because she's very small. And she was very small when we found her. We think she might have been the runt of the litter, and we don't know if she got left behind purposefully, if something happened to mom, or if while moving the litter this little one wandered off somewhere and mom couldn't find her. But she was kind of hiding out under our shed by herself, and thankfully we were both working from home due to COVID, and so we both separately heard her, and started leaving food out for her, and got a friend to help us like trap her. And she is the absolute sweetest thing, and she was a little bit not so much cuddly over the first year or so, but now she is such a cuddle bug. She is so sweet and just such a loving little cat. She's still not thrilled about getting picked up and kissed, but she loves to like curl up on your lap. She's such a sweetheart. She always wants to be near me all the time. I'm actually surprised she is not here right at this moment, but I just can't picture anyone taking a look at my little baby cat and thinking that she's a source of evil. I just can't picture the absolute insanity that people would think that such sweet animals are like something demonic that you have to fucking kill. I just can't fucking understand it. It just does not fucking compute for me. I cannot comprehend. I can't comprehend anyone doing it to any animal. I can't really comprehend anyone doing it to any cat, but especially black cats. They're so goofy. Their temperaments are so freaking weird. They're doofy. They talk a lot. I don't get it. And frankly, I don't want to get it. I'd fucking punch you in the face if you hurt a cat. Oh, and here she is. Here she is. There's that Binksy Bean. Hi, baby. Good girl. That was Time Cat. I don't know. That made me emotional. Very weird, very interesting book. I I don't know, like I said, how truthful a lot of some of the historical stuff is, but from what I know of history things, it seems like it's pretty on point, if not maybe slightly outdated in a couple of parts, but overall I found it to be a very interesting read. I do love a time travel trope within here, and this was definitely time travel-y, so that was very interesting. But yeah, definitely a very weird weird book. One of Lloyd Alexander's more weird books, but I do appreciate the things that he was trying to do here. I haven't read all of his writing, but I have read a chunk of it at this point, and I feel like everything he was writing, he was trying to do with the specific intent of imparting some kind of wisdom of caring and openness on kids, like trying to, how I kind of feel about like PBS Kids and stuff like that, is trying to instill goodness, in kids through like tolerance and kindness and patience and yeah, stuff like that. I don't know. Enjoyed it. I don't think I'd call it my favorite Lloyd Alexander, but I did still enjoy it, and I gave that, what did I give it? 4 stars. And I read A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I read this twice. I read this every year. I listened to an audiobook, and so I listened to that while I was working on stuff, and then I read this physical copy when I was up in Vermont with my family. And I love this book. I love this book. You guys already know this. I talk about this a lot. I annotated it last year. I annotated one of my other copies last year, and I'm hoping to eventually have that video where I talk about my 2 favorite classics novels, and hoping I'll have that done at some point this year. I'm still rereading the second one. Don't want to get too full in depth because I talk about this book ad nauseum, and I'm sure everyone's really tired of it, and you'll hear me go more in depth about it when I make that video. But I love this book. It's the quintessential book. You know what it's about. If you don't know what it's about, I don't know how that happened. Ebenezer Scrooge is a curmudgeonly old man, and one night he is visited first by the ghost of his old partner who died several years before, and basically says, I don't want you to suffer the same fate as me. I'm suffering, so I am gonna have you have a chance at bettering yourself and changing your ways. And you're gonna be visited by 3 ghosts: the ghost of Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas yet to come. And yeah, these are his experiences with those 3 ghosts. I really love this book. I think this is... I read Bleak House the other year, and I know I've seen that noted as like his masterpiece kind of thing, but I think this is pretty close up there. And it's a good deal shorter and more easily accessible for most people, I think. This is a book that I think everyone should read. Oftentimes there are a lot of books that I'll be like, well, what can you recommend to everyone? And it's like, it's really hard to do that because everyone has different tastes. But there's only like a couple of books that I can think of that I would recommend every single person on this earth read, and this is one of them, because I think that, first of all, again, easily accessible classic. If you've never read a classic before, this one, next to like probably Treasure Island, I guess, I think these are some of the most accessible ones to really ease you into reading classics and really make you see that there's so much more than just really boring shit you were forced to read in school. Like, they're really interesting, and this contains some of the most beautiful descriptions I have ever read in literature. Very good story about someone redeeming themselves and having a change of heart. It's got ghosts in it. It's got a lot of humor, including dark humor. It's got just such great social commentary. Again, beautiful descriptions. It'll make you emotional. It makes me cry every time. And I think it is really trying to impart a very special message about caring about others on this mortal coil, giving a flipping shit. So yeah, I love this book. It's a 5-star forever and ever. Thank you, amen. So the next thing that I can talk about, I guess, is How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. I read this. This is a reread, of course. This is a childhood favorite. Or I guess a childhood favorite. You know what? I didn't really have any Dr. Seuss growing up. I feel like I've talked about this before. I didn't really have Dr. Seuss growing up, that much of it, because my mom didn't really like Dr. Seuss that much. So my experiences of reading the books were kind of limited when I was little, to stuff that I could read in other places. So it's not until my adulthood where I have owned physical copies of books that I watched. My exposure to them was watching the animated movies of them, like the old school ones were done. When were they done? Was it in the 60s or 70s or something? There was also the one with the girl with the flower on her head, right? Yeah. But it was the Lorax, which I now own a copy of, and How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which I got a copy of like last year, because I was like, this is bonkers that I don't own a copy of this book. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies. I love this book. It's really simple, really easy. The artwork, again, fairly simple. Love the expressions of the Grinch. His little evil little face. Look at that. That side eye he's giving there. But yeah, not really much to say about this other than it rhymes. Everybody loves that. Also a redemption story, sort of. The Grinch learned something, but with less having the shit scared out of him than Ebenezer Scrooge, I guess. Yeah, it's delightful. Childhood favorite. What did I give that? Did I give that 5 stars? I did. And then the last book that I read of the year was A Castle in the Clouds by Kirsten Gier. This book, can I just tell you, I started this book last year, like the end of last year. I read like the first couple of chapters, and then I just was not feeling the interest. And I don't fully know why. I think I was a little bit thrown by the writing slightly. I believe it is translated. Some of the syntax or whatever I think has been just a little bit different, but I also didn't like a character that's in here. He's a major brat, and he was rubbing me the wrong way, and I was like, man, I'd fucking punt that kid down the front lawn. Anyway, I put it down, didn't come back to it, and then decided to pick it up because I'd already finished my Christmas was over. I'd read all my holiday books, mostly. I DNF'd a couple, and I was like, I want to read something else that's currently on my TBR, and I picked this up, and dang, it just hit at the right time, I guess. Castle in the Clouds follows Sophie. She like, what is she, 17, I want to say? Sophie Spark is taking a break, basically. Her parents have a lot of expectations on her, and she doesn't really want to follow those expectations. So Sophie has taken an internship at this famous hotel up in the Swiss Alps called the Castle in the Clouds. It is an old school hotel. This is like kind of the thing. There's a cat, and she, being an intern, does a lot of different things. Sometimes she helps with the laundry, sometimes she helps clean rooms, sometimes she does like dog walking, she babysits, she helps out the like local school teacher in the area. What else? She kind of helps out the kitchen. She doesn't really spend a lot of time in there, but she's all over the place doing a lot of different jobs because she's the intern. So running around doing all these things, and then stuff starts happening. There's a culmination of things. She overhears a conversation about the possibility of the hotel being sold to a developer. Then she's seeing like a mysterious guy she keeps running into who's where he shouldn't be. He's around her age. Then there's like the owner of the hotel. His son is there, and he's also around her age, and he is also very cute. So there's a little bit of like, ooh, cute boys kind of thing. There's a bunch of other teenagers from rich families. This whole bunch of like primo guests are coming for Christmas, because it takes place around Christmas and New Year's. So there's all of these like major big time famous people and big time like clients, guests staying at the hotel all around this time, and there also seems to be some kind of other mysterious things happening at the same time. I really loved this book. It like got a hold of me. I got over the bratty kid. The bratty kid's in here, but he's really not in here that much. I got so intrigued by it. I mean, it does have a little bit of that love triangle-y kind of thing that I'm just so tired of in YA, but then again, it's like your standard YA thing. It's there for a reason. Teenagers lap that shit up. I know I did when I was a teenager. So it's whatever. I just got over this because I am not the target audience for this. I didn't even mind it that much because it wasn't like, I think it was actually very well done for this. It wasn't so much the angst of like a lot of stuff that you see. It wasn't that level like that at all. I think it was very well done. There's the hotel itself is just beautifully described. The idea of being at like this fancy old hotel, the Swiss Alps around Christmas. I mean, I would feel weird spending the holidays anywhere but around like family and stuff, but the idea of it does sound super charming and kind of nice. I really liked a lot of the staff of the hotel, especially the people she's closest to. I found them very endearing. There's a cat that shouldn't be there. This is the cat, and he's very mysterious. The cat seems to have always have been there. There's a little bit of a ghostly elements to it that I particularly loved. Sophie has like these like jackdaws, which I just remembered. I need to look up what the hell a jackdaw is. They're like a crow or something. She's got these jackdaws that she befriends. It's just delightful. It is honestly quite delightful. And will I say it's the best thing I've ever... No, it's not. But comparatively this year, like as soon as I finished this book and I was sitting there and I was like just thinking about this book, I was like, wow, that is exactly the ending I could have hoped for. And oh man, dang, I immediately opened my laptop and adjusted my list of top books for the year because this had to go on there, which is like crazy. It is honestly fucking bizarre this past year has been, because I found one of my top 10 reads right in among my first reads of the year, and I found another one in the last thing I read. So that was pretty crazy. Yeah, this is another one I would say, maybe not for everyone, but I mean, if you like a super cozy book that has like some mystery elements, some ghosty stuff going on, and like a cute-ish kind of love triangle thing set at a cozy, old-timey hotel in the Swiss Alps around the holiday season, I mean, you can't go wrong with it. It's super sweet. I gave that 5 stars. And then I just want to quickly talk about the 2 books that I DNF'd in December. The first of which was Christmas Land, and that's by Anne-Marie Meyer. I said I wanted to try out Christmassy romances again, but I kept having trouble finding one that I wanted. So I tried Christmas Land. Could I tell you what the book was about? Can't remember. was earlier in the month of December. Could I tell you much of what I remember about the book? No. Other than I was not having a good time. It felt a little bit, again, a little bit of that kind of cheesy saccharine thing that I didn't like. And I probably could have given it more of a chance than I did, but I decided pretty quickly into listening to the audiobook that this was not for me. That's probably mostly my fault. I think I'm a little too judgmental when it comes to holiday romances, but quite frankly, I hate Hallmark Christmas movies, and most holiday romances just seem to be Hallmark Christmas movies, so I avoid them. And the last one was Christmas is Murder by Val McDermid. That one I got further in. I just didn't like the writing style, and I did not give a shit about any of the characters. And as soon as I realized that, I gave up. Anyway, that's everything that I read in December. See you guys.